We have our team out there on it, beginning with Kati Weis in Oxford, Mississippi. Katie, good evening.
Good evening, Tony. It's like an icy tornado ripped through this city. Thousands of people here in Oxford are now on day 4 with no power and no running water. And with more freezing temperatures expected this weekend, the city's mayor says it's only going to get worse.
Katie, good morning to you. You look all warm and toasty, sort of, kind of.
Good morning, Gail. Well, I wouldn't call it warm and cozy. It's pretty bitter cold out here. All of this ice accumulation from the weekend ice storm has far from melted. Look at this bush. It still looks very much more like a chandelier. Look at this power line that's down here in this neighborhood. You can see how the weight of this ice is also snapping power poles, bringing down the lines with it. Power is out for about 180,000 customers in Mississippi. 40 counties are affected this morning. Has caused basically a glass house on the campus, and it has become quite hazardous for people to walk around because as this ice continues to weigh down the trees, tree branches, tree limbs are falling down to the ground. Just in the last hour that we've been preparing for this live report, I've counted at least 3 different trees that have lost more limbs just around students who are walking here on campus trying to get here to this student union.
I asked her, I said, if you could speak directly to the person who did this to you, who put you in this hospital bed, what would you say? She says, I have nothing left to say to him. He's a bug to me.
Police say the suspect used a handgun that belonged to his stepmom, who's a local county sheriff's deputy. She is now on personal leave. Jerika?
Yeah, such a sad tale of events.
We have just confirmed at this hour that this truly is an historic event. This is the most snow that New Orleans has ever seen in recorded weather history.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing, and here we are standing in the middle of it. Now, just within the last couple of hours, I spoke with a New Orleans City Council person who visited the 2 police officers who were injured in this attack. He says those heroes are in stable condition tonight and they're resting. Major?
Heroes indeed.
And we are getting the first glimpses since that horrific attack. Some of the remaining evidence that's left behind, you could tell it was affected by the force of the truck that came through here at such a high rate of speed.
Over here, this is the Bearcat for the Customs and Border Protection agents. And over here, we have Customs and Border Patrol agents who have been out on this razor throughout the day, patrolling this parade route.
And here we go. I'm going to show you how it's done. Hey, throw me something. Yeah, all right. Woo!
Good catch.
What else do we have? I'm impressed. I don't usually catch very well.
After this suspect allegedly plowed through this crowd of people, witnesses did tell me that the person who was driving that truck got out with what appeared to be some kind of automatic style weapon. I asked, did it look like a pistol or more of like a rifle? Witnesses described it more as a rifle style automatic weapon. It was just a little after 3 o'clock in the morning this morning. I was out with my husband for an impromptu celebration, just like many people celebrating the new year. Once we were allowed to leave the bar and police were corralling us out of the area to safety, we really got a full glimpse of just how horrific, how grim the scene really was. We saw people who were unconscious, we saw bodies on the ground, we saw blood on the streets. It was a scene I most certainly will never forget in my life.
And honestly, I want to know how you're doing. You not only saw this horrible scene, but have been working for hours now covering this story. How are you doing?
Thank you for asking. I'm doing all right. You know, we're all humans. We're all in this together. At the end of the day, we just have to have grace with one another, and I appreciate you for checking in. You know, it's important for me to help deliver this information to the country.
You can talk about the mood from the witnesses that you've spoken with.
That's a great question. I think the mood was just shock and terror. Suddenly your mind has to shift from I'm ringing in the new year to I'm trying to make sure my life is not at risk. And so all of these people at once we're trying to make this shift mentally together. NOAA usually is an agency that plays a critical role in responding to oil spills just like this one. But since January, more than 2,000 employees have been cut from that agency.
What's your message to all other immigrants in this country today?
No one is illegal. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
And you are watching Columbia University student MAHMOUD KHALIL outside the ICE detention center where he was held for 104 days entire time. So he's going back right now to New York to see his wife and his newborn son. Kati Weis is setting up right there. She's catching her breath. She's a one-woman show right there. She's got it going on. Kati, he just walked out of what stood out to you with that exchange there with the media, with MAHMOUD KHALIL?
Yes, thanks, Liz. It was a very powerful moment, a very quick one. As you can understand, after being in here for over 100 days, he was very excited to get home. He feels that when you enter this facility here in LaSalle, the LaSalle detention facility in Jena, Louisiana, he says you leave your rights behind. Immediately, he says it's been a long road. He hasn't been able to see his son except for a 1-hour allowance. Well, Jerika, behind me here is the St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans' French Quarter. Records show that the Pope's great-grandmother was actually baptized here at this cathedral in 1840, and that his maternal family has deep roots in the Big Easy.
Now, after the terror attack here on New Year's Day on Bourbon Street, there was a big influx of military presence, armed police presence for big events like Super Bowl and Mardi Gras. A lot of partygoers here at the time told me that they were happy to see that presence, that it made them feel more safe. But local businesses felt that it scared away patrons. And even though this prison was rebuilt in 2015, the sheriff's office is also pointing blame on the city for failing to pay for what they say were needed fixes to faulty locks. Jerika?
Kati Weis in New Orleans.
Just within the last hour or so is that essentially this maintenance worker is accused of helping the inmates turn off the water supply so that the inmates could then pull the toilet from the wall and successfully make their escape without getting drenched.
Wow. So, okay, we understand authorities have upped the reward in this case to catch the other inmates who are still at large at this point. What does that amount stand?
It is now up to $20,000 cash reward per inmate for any information that actually leads to an arrest. That's a lot of money. That's a brand new car. I mean, if you have any information, you're encouraged to do the right thing and call police.
Yeah, definitely is a lot of money and a brand new car.
As for the two men who still remain at large, one of them has a history of breaking out of correctional facilities like this one. This rollback could essentially have implications for communities all across the United States. There are 90 different facilities that use this chemical, ethylene oxide, also known as ETO. Yes, the court justices decided in this 46-page opinion that came down late Friday evening that the Ten Commandments have historical significance as one of the foundations of our nation's legal system. And so now what we're seeing months later after that discontinuation is essentially a patchwork quilt of many colors, if you will, when it comes to various policies or legislation on how to deal with a world without these little copper coins. And that federal ruling orders the Trump administration to release SNAP benefits, emergency SNAP benefits, immediately to keep those benefits flowing for people throughout the weekend. We reached out to the White House for a comment on how and when they'll make that funding available, but we've not yet heard back. John?
Kati Weis reporting. Thank you.
I just so happened to see him walking down the popular Canal Street in the major tourist area of the French Quarter of New Orleans, and so I immediately just got out my phone and started talking with him to ask him about the progress of his operation. Take a listen.
How many people did you detain today?
Still counting. A lot and still counting.
How long do you plan to be here?
That is a fantastic question till the mission's accomplished.
How do you think the terror attack changed everything for the city?
It's created more vigilance.
If you could speak directly to the person who did this to you, what would you say to them?
He doesn't deserve any more of my time.
How do you feel that living through something like this changes how you lead moving forward?
It's unfortunate this is becoming more commonplace.
So, Sheriff, this is the section of wall that they climbed up.
Yeah, right here in this corner here.
When you arrived to this facility on May 16th and discovered that 10 inmates had escaped, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I've got to say it was a shock, to say the least.
Who do you believe may have dropped the ball here?
It does appear that in this case, the U.S. government was not able to conduct social media vetting on this individual.
When you think of this program shutting down, what goes through your mind?
All the future incarcerated individuals that are losing the opportunity.
How much would you have made in Social Security checks every month?
$2,500.
And how much would that have been over these last 10 years?
I think $300,000. That's a lot of money.
The big down trees like this, this is one of the challenges you're facing?
For sure.
When you think about so many families all over the country that may be in need, I see it brings tears to your eyes.
Yeah, because right now, things are getting tough and rough.
Why did you say that at the time, and do you still feel like your department has not identified actual solutions?
There were places where we misstepped.
Some people have even been on the brink of suicide as a result of issues with your department. When you hear that, what's your response?
I think as a department, we need to listen.
What would you say to critics who feel like the horses may be mistreated here?
I have 2 vet reports.
If it were up to you, would you live in one of those units?
If it was the housing that was available to me, absolutely.
Do you think that's really fair on the taxpayer?
That's not really a decision for me to make.
Some people feel like if you're a tax-exempt hospital, is it really right for you to be going after these patients in this way? Would you drink it? Is it that clean?
I would. Just told that there wasn't really anything that anyone could do.
Do you believe that?
Not really, no.
What do you think they should do?
I mean, after a while, I feel like it should be able to be stopped.
What was going through your mind?
I just told myself, I was like, don't die.
It's a race to restore the power here in Oxford, Mississippi, where power crews from several different states have been working from dawn till dusk to get the lights back on. This fall, more than 2,000 wild horses were shipped from these fields to facilities in Wyoming and Utah at the taxpayers' expense. And remember how at the time of the escape, even some locks were working? Well, the sheriff is installing a brand new lock system. They've already installed 60 of these, but they still have 360 more to go to make it secure. There are more than 10,000 non-citizens living here in New Orleans, and that's according to the 2023 U.S. Census. And most of those folks are undocumented. But a new Louisiana state law now bans the very policies that make New Orleans a sanctuary city. Right now, it's the only sanctuary city on the Gulf Coast. And across the entire National Park Service agency, about 13% of employees have been pushed out since January. Sources say it's a loss of up to 3,000 workers. Here in New Orleans, a National Historic Park honoring jazz music has lost half its staff already. To try to stop the rise of egg prices, the USDA plans to spend $1 billion more tax dollars to fight the bird flu, including $400 million to farmers to buy new chickens. So what should you do? Should you charge overnight or during the day while you're awake? Well, experts say that there's a good compromise. You can charge overnight, but at a lower power level, so that way you're charging more slowly and safely.
Does that temporary loss indicate something is coming with the ultimate outcome?
You would think that maybe that sets a tone for what the lawsuit might, incur, but the plaintiffs tell me that they are feeling hopeful regardless of that setback. And actually, there is some wind in their sails right now. There are some similar laws restricting ballot assistance in Ohio that were struck down in a lawsuit earlier this year. And the judge called it a, quote, clear violation of a federally guaranteed voting right. And since then, the police department has been trying to put SROs back in Adams 14 schools, but the district really doesn't want them. The superintendent even went so far as to call the police department, quote, abusive and authoritarian over the issue. I'm told cops are seeing more and more of these privately made guns on the streets in the metro area. And that's concerning because you can make these ghost guns at home without having to undergo
any background check.
Katie, you had a great conversation with a romance scam investigator at the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office.
I sure did, Michael. You know, he tells me that these scammers are really pros at making you believe that what you have is real love. The most money that any romance scam victim he's seen taken for was just shy of, get this, $1 million over the course of a year-long relationship.
The bill will also require more training for assisted living operators. Signing the bill today, Governor Polis released a statement that reads in part, this bill takes steps towards increasing accountability, oversight, and compliance within the assisted living industry.
So back when I first started working on this during the pandemic, it was really interesting because I obtained some internal emails that showed one of the biggest problems with the department's systems was that they were still running on 1980s technology. Yes.
How is that even possible?
I don't understand either, but that was one of the big issues. There are still a lot of these chemical pits underground that were sealed off that still have a lot of these hazardous chemicals in them. And some of the community members are worried that if a recycling facility were to be built there, construction could potentially disturb those underground pits and then cause them to breach. And more chemicals could potentially then, flow underground and affect nearby rivers and other water sources. Of course, Barkowiak tells me she thinks that statement is laughable.
Yeah, and this is not the first time that this nonprofit has come under fire.
No, absolutely right, Karen. Some victims of the Club Q shooting also took a stand against this fund.
Now I'm finding people across the country and here in the Mile High City are worried about how the company may have gotten rich at the expense of putting the public at
We have more now on the security preparations across the country for New Year's Eve. 350 National Guard troops are deploying to New Orleans 1 year after 14 people were killed and dozens more injured in a terror attack on the city's iconic Bourbon Street. Our Kati Weis was in New Orleans when the attack happened. Katie, good morning.
Good morning, Adriana. Yes, I was out here celebrating the new year with my husband here on Bourbon Street. We had just stepped into a bar when the attack happened, and the carnage that we witnessed after is something that still haunts me to this day. Now, a year later, the city has set up this memorial of twinkling lights and flags to honor each of the 14 people killed.
My sweet boy, always happy.
He matched me this day. I was so proud.
This New Year's, the Gautreaux family is holding on to memories.
I think about him every day.
Hubert Gautreaux was one of 14 people killed in a terror attack on New Orleans' Bourbon Street. He was 21 years old. Brooke is his sister.
I think he would have been a great dad. And to think that, when I get married, he'll never be there.
Last New Year's morning, an ISIS-inspired U.S. Army veteran drove a truck through 3 crowded blocks. He died in a police shootout.
What I saw was a nightmare. Bodies strewn everywhere, body parts here, body parts there, blood everywhere. Take a deep breath.
New Orleans City Coroner Dr. Dwight McKenna responded to the scene.
We worked until we got it done, so all of the bodies were identified. The families had been notified.
Attorneys representing 80 people affected by the attack claim it was preventable.
The city had the tools at their disposal on New Year's Eve to prevent this attack from occurring, and they failed to do so.
The city has installed stronger barriers like these, but people like Brooke want more, including Bourbon becoming a permanent pedestrian-only zone. Do you think the city has done enough?
I don't think so. I would love to see, a reworking of the city plan. It would break my heart to think that it could happen again.
How do you want others to be inspired by his memory?
Bring light to somebody else the way that he would in the little things. Just small thoughtfulness, I think, would be a beautiful way to remember him.
And the city of New Orleans declined to comment on this pending litigation, but said in a news release this week that it's grateful for the federal security support. And meanwhile, all of the people that we interviewed said that they hope that their story will inspire other cities around the country to be prepared and have a strong security plan in place. Kelly?
Katie, it's incredible to hear the message of hope his sister shared still after something so tragic. Appreciate it.
20 years ago this Friday, Hurricane Katrina made its second and most destructive landfall in the United States, coming ashore in southeast Louisiana. But the powerful storm left a lasting blow in places like Biloxi, Mississippi, as well. In tonight's In Depth, CBS's Kati Weis reports Biloxi is still in recovery mode.
Hurricane Katrina didn't spare Biloxi, Mississippi.
We swam down 4 houses, and this lady took us in and gave me these clothes, and here I am.
20 years later, the city is still rebuilding.
The water would have been over our heads.
It would have been 10 foot over our heads.
During Katrina.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mayor Fofo Gillich says it's been a constant battle with FEMA. To rebuild the city's pier stronger than before, they need $4 million. But he says FEMA has a different number.
$555,000, which is absolutely, in my mind, ridiculous.
The biggest unfinished project, upgrades to the city's sewage and stormwater system to better protect the city from the next monster storm.
We can't bid these last 2 projects unless we have assurance of funding.
FEMA still owes Biloxi $34 million to finish the work planned 20 years ago. But the mayor says the cost of supplies and labor have outpaced that.
How do you really feel about how you've been treated by this agency?
Well, it's just ridiculous. That's how I really feel. Come on.
FEMA has said throughout the years that your city wasn't using the money appropriately or was, making mistakes, and how the city was
I can look
using
at that
the money.
camera and I can tell you that's not right. Bottom line, I'm here to say we've done everything we could possibly do.
Biloxi is not alone. We found more than 200 other FEMA Katrina relief projects meant to help municipalities across Louisiana and Mississippi that still aren't done.
Almost like dealing with insurance agents, delay, depose, and deny.
This as Congress hashes out a potential overhaul of FEMA. U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem testified before Congress in May.
We still have claims outstanding in FEMA from Hurricane Katrina, wildfire claims from out west that are 10 years old. So that needs to end, and this needs some integrity to it, and making sure the federal government's there for support, but the states are empowered to do the emergency response is very important to President Trump.
FEMA says it's building a more effective disaster response that gets help to people in need. Mayor Gillich is cautiously optimistic.
How much longer do you think it's going to take before these get done?
I think good 3 years. Again, the end result is righteous. It's going to be something that we can sustain a lot of the things, as far as what Mother Nature throws at us.
Nerve-wracking uncertainty as another hurricane season heats up. Kati Weis, CBS News, Biloxi, Mississippi.
This week, the White House said its immigration crackdown has resulted in more than 8,000 arrests since President Trump's inauguration. Well, consider this. There are more than 4 million children under the age of 18 who live with a parent who does not have legal status. CBS's Kati Weis has that story tonight.
It's 5:30 in the morning just outside New Orleans. This group of ICE and DEA agents have just pulled over and arrested a man in an operation to detain and deport 3 different immigrants they say are undocumented and who recently were charged with a variety of crimes. ICE says these ops are a top priority.
We're working a lot more on our caseload now.
The New Orleans DEA chief is happy to help. How often would you say you assist?
Every day.
During this operation, ICE agents detained one man charged with rape, as well as another man they say is undocumented who just happened to be in the car.
Laid in the back of the car, covered in a blanket.
ICE calls this type of arrest collateral.
If we encounter other folks as we do this, our supervisors are going to make case-by-case decisions.
That worries 25-year-old Gracie, who asked us to only use her first name for fear of retaliation. Originally from Honduras, she says she's committed no crime since crossing the border 5 years ago. Gracie has received some temporary protections to live and work here while her immigration case is still pending.
What is it that keeps you up at night?
She says she's afraid she'll never see her daughter again. Gracie's 3-year-old daughter is a U.S. citizen. Her 8-year-old is undocumented.
Right now, there are more than 10,000 non-citizens living here in New Orleans, and that's according to the 2023 U.S. Census. And most of those folks are undocumented. But a new Louisiana state law now bans the very policies that make New Orleans a sanctuary city. Right now, it's the only sanctuary city on the Gulf Coast.
Take the worst of the worst off the streets.
New Orleans ICE Deputy Field Officer Brian Acuna says they're targeting criminals.
All the other sheriffs are cooperative except for the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office.
The Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office declined an interview, but the district attorney says the parish only cooperates with ICE in cases of undocumented immigrants accused of violent crimes. Do you foresee New Orleans staying on that trend of continuing to be a sanctuary city?
I don't think the tolerance level or the way that New Orleanians show love is going to change simply because of a change in administration.
Gracie hopes there's no change in being able to keep her family together. You still feel like you did the right thing? Despite everything, she still believes she's in the right place for however long that lasts. Kati Weis, CBS News, New Orleans.
All right. Also, communities along the Mississippi River are facing a growing threat from an intrusion of salt water from the Gulf. CBS News' Kati Weis reports it's impacting the seafood industry and it's raising concerns about the safety of New Orleans' drinking water.
We're on the banks of the Mississippi River, and this is our main water source.
Mitch Jurisich is a third-generation oysterman, now a local councilman an hour south of New Orleans in Plaquemines Parish, where damage from saltwater is a daily problem.
It's wiped out our public oyster grounds east of the river, put a lot of people in poverty.
Saltwater from the Gulf has been flowing the wrong way up the Mississippi River and contaminating the fresh water supply for the 23,000 people who live here. Muddy messes like this one are popping up daily. Pipes corroded by the salt are rusting and bursting underground,
wreaking havoc on our very fragile water system.
Fixing what's broken and building a stronger infrastructure would cost this tiny parish an estimated $200 million.
Power is a luxury. Water is a need.
Saltwater intrusion is happening more often and lasting longer. Researchers here say drought, sea level rise, severe storms, and dredging are some of the reasons why. In 2023, salt levels climbed dangerously close to New Orleans. Because the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers manages the river, they built an underwater barrier called a sill to stop the saltwater from flowing north.
That prevents the water from getting up to New Orleans St. Bernard.
Corps spokesperson Ricky Boyette says the sills wear down.
It's the first time it's ever been done 2 years in a row, more or less 3.
It's not just to protect the estimated $9 billion in annual tourist dollars that pour into the Big Easy. 40 million metric tons of exports from New Orleans travel down the Mississippi each year.
We do have the largest shipping channel in the country.
So this summer, the Corps is filling crevices that have formed on the eroding edges of the riverbank.
That's a lot of water that can maintain our flow.
It's a move state and local leaders have demanded for more than a decade. What was the turning point for you to decide to take that action?
We looked at it as soon as it started impacting navigation. That's where our authority comes in.
Restaurant owner Byron Marinovich won't be waiting around. The salt corroded his appliances.
The biggest thing's been the ice machine. This is our third one in 15 years that we've had to put in. This one just cost us about $5,600 just to top.
What's next for you? If this keeps up?
We're looking to move.
Really?
Yes. Not having clean water is really like at the top of the list.
But Jurisich is staying put.
I'm not moving. This is my home.
Battling a quiet enemy. Kati Weis, CBS News, New Orleans.
And take a look at this. According to our CBS News price tracker, the average price of a dozen eggs is about $5. You see it right there, $4.95, which is up from $2.52 just last year. Math experts will tell you that's an increase of 96%, nearly double since last year. And this, of course, is due in part to an egg shortage caused by an outbreak of the bird flu. That has killed millions of chickens. But you might be surprised by how your tax dollars are being used by companies to restore the lost flocks. Kati Weis has this story.
At Southern Farms in Madison, Alabama, 900 feathered ladies are enjoying a sunny afternoon following a morning of laying these hot commodities.
About 750 eggs a day right now, all collected by hand.
And collecting more business, says owner Keith Southard.
Can't lay enough eggs every day to fill the demand. It's unreal.
Southard just signed with another restaurant, doubling his production to 11,000 eggs a week. The road to a booming business hasn't been easy.
Last year, we actually got hit with a type of mycoplasma in the laying hens. Very similar symptoms to the avian flu, so just cull the flock and start over.
But Southard didn't qualify for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's public funding program to reimburse his losses and buy this new flock.
But here in central Mississippi, the veterinarian for the third largest poultry producer in the nation tells me they did receive taxpayer reimbursements after they were forced to put down chicken flocks in 3 different facilities.
We've been successful there in preventing the spread, which I think is the ultimate goal.
Mark Burleson with Wayne Sanderson Farms says since 2023, they've had to kill about 300,000 chickens due to the bird flu. We found they received more than 600,000 taxpayer dollars from the USDA to replace their flocks. But his company is far from receiving the most. A CBS News analysis of federal data found since 2020, the feds paid $1.1 billion to hundreds of larger companies forced to kill their flocks due to the bird flu.
Definitely a question there about when USDA should get involved or not. Obviously, we see still these big supply problems.
Do you think that that's a fair expense to the taxpayer?
It's a great question. The alternative is to let it spread, and we can't do that. It is a healthy product, and I think chicken fits that bill.
Because of the dire egg shortage, the FDA is considering an industry request this week to use a type of egg that was outlawed in consumer products back in 2009 called broiler eggs. Eggs normally meant for hatching chicks.
Those 500,000 eggs that we throw away every week, instead of doing that, they would be utilized for cake mixes, for dressings.
These eggs are safe. Why?
They're pasteurized, which means they're heated to a point that they're safe for consumers.
With the egg shortage from the bird flu expected to last at least another year, Southard says it's a time for more small farms to step up to the plate.
Family farms play a key role because it takes away the big consolidation that's happened and spreads out the risk. So if one gets hit, it's not as big of an effect on the whole supply chain.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Kati Weis, Madison, Alabama.